Hi everyone, Effie here again. Today I'm going to show you how I made this project using our new rose bouquet and modern labels stamp set. I am going to watercolor my card today, but instead of my usual embossing, I'm going to stamp my images in our Noir Dye Ink. It is watercolor friendly. I stamped my bouquet on a watercolor panel in our Noir Dye Ink, and then I created a mask for that bouquet using just regular printer paper. Then I took this stamp from our modern label set, and then I'm going to stamp it onto my watercolor panel after I applied the mask for the bouquet. The mask doesn't have to be perfect because I only need the right side of that mask to protect my image. After I finished stamping my panel, I just started watercoloring. I'm using Ken Oliver Color Burst to paint today, and I believe I'm using a Fuchsia here. When it dries to a really nice pretty pink. It doesn't look as pink when it's wet, but it does dry to a nice vibrant pink. I think I'm going to start using the Fuchsia more often now. I usually emboss my stamped images when I plan to watercolor, but I wanted to do something a little different with this card, so I stamped it in black ink. Now when you stamp in just regular dye ink and then you start painting, it's not as easy as painting with embossed images, because with embossing you have the raised image or the raised lines of your image, which kind of create little pockets or little channels for all of your pigment and water to go in. You can just paint the entire image and not worry about colors bleeding into other areas. But here, since there are no raised images, you kind of have to work in different sections. So you have to paint one section and then move on to a completely dry section. And then when that first section is dried, you can go and start painting areas adjacent to that initial area. But if you paint areas right next to each other while they're still wet, the paint is going to start bleeding into each other and everything is going to blend together. So if you want some sort of gradation going on, with a dark to light to even white areas on your painting, you want to make sure that you're moving in certain parts of your panel and you're not just painting areas right next to each other. You want to paint one area, let it dry, and then move on to another area and then come back to the area of the first place that you started painting. I hope this is helpful to someone. This card was not my favorite, but I decided to keep it because I figure maybe someone will take away something from it. I ended up with a crooked sentiment at the end of this card, so I really almost scrapped the entire card and the video. I was debating whether I should post it, but you know what? The video was shot, all I had to do was edit it, and I figured maybe someone will learn something about whatever I'm doing in this video. And one tip is when you're stamping your sentiments, use a MISTI and stamp it straight. Because the crooked sentiment, it just kind of, I don't know, I have to just forget about it. So for this card, the color bursts that I used today are Fuchsia, Gamboge, Sap Green, and Naples Yellow. In the beginning, I was very careful about trying to stay within the lines, but as I kept going outside of the lines, I just kind of went with some loose watercoloring here. And as I said earlier, I'm not 100% happy with the results, but sometimes when I look at my card, it's okay. But in the end, it's just a card, and I hope someone will appreciate it when I send it to them. So after I finished painting the rose bouquet, I created a mask for my label, and I stamped that smaller bouquet on the right side of the label, and I just did a little bit of watercolor blending on that smaller bouquet using a similar color palette as I did on the larger bouquet. Once all my painting was finished, I created masks for all the images on my panel, and then I applied the mask onto the panel using temporary adhesive, and then I just splattered on some black watercolor paint. Now, if any of the splatters go through your mask, all you need to do is just blend it out with your paintbrush, and it should come out. Then I dried the panel with my heat tool, which I didn't show on camera. But after my panel was completely dried, I stamped the sentiment from the same Rose Bouquet stamp set in our Noir Dye ink. And then I used the largest die from our double stitched rectangles die. It's the large set, and it'll add stitching to the edges of my panel. So after I ran it through my die cutting machine, I just adhered it to a top folding A2 card base, and then I embellished my card using clear dewdrops from our shop. That's it for this project. I'll see you next time. Bye!